Hi, I'm Joe Gailey, and I want to welcome you to our second installment of what every person needs to know about income taxation for estates. Once again, the emphasis of this is on every person. This is not designed to be a scholarly presentation. It's designed to offer good, valuable information to everyday people who find themselves having to be in the role of executors or perhaps have beneficiaries recently graduated who may not have a good viewpoint into the practicalities of estate administration insofar as taxes go. With that, this installment is going to be on using the fiscal year-end selection to defer income taxes. Now, what do I mean by fiscal year-end? Well, most people calendar year, which means that tax year starts January 1 and ends December 31. And all of us are familiar. We get W-2s based on that time period. We get interest statements from our stocks and bank accounts based on that time period. But estates have a choice. They can be on a fiscal year. And they choose by electing. You don't have to choose in advance. You elect a fiscal year by filing the return and electing a fiscal year. And that can be any fiscal year you want, so long as the first one does not exceed 12 months. Now, why would this be advantageous? It's advantageous because of the interaction and how beneficiaries report income. Now, estates have to pay taxes on their own, but unlike individuals, they reach the maximum tax rate at about $15,000 worth of income. Individuals don't meet the maximum tax rate until their income well exceeds $100,000, $200,000, $300,000, depending on that filing status. So the income tax brackets for estates are very compressed. Because of that, the tax law allows us to decide who pays tax on income by distributing it to beneficiaries. And that distribution to a beneficiary carries with it a portion of income. The beneficiary doesn't know how much of the money he or she receives as income until later in the year. And when the estate income tax return is filed, there is a Form K-1 that tells each beneficiary how much of the money they received is taxable to them. Now, that K-1 income, or what we refer to as K-1 income, is taxable to the beneficiary in the calendar year in which the estate fiscal year ends. And that interaction causes us the ability to defer taxes out of the estate for a significant period of time. For instance, suppose that most of the income that the estate receives is from a subchapter S corporation or a partnership, both of whom are typically December 31st year ends. Well, if they elect a fiscal year, then the income from that subchapter S corporation or that partnership may not be taxable to the beneficiary until the next calendar year. And then the beneficiary may not have to pay the tax related to that income until April 15th of the next calendar year. So by properly selecting fiscal year ends, you can manipulate the deferral to benefit the beneficiaries. Now, this is not true with trust. Most trusts have to be on a calendar year basis. And we do have some interaction in the estate tax field with people using trust instead of estates. And if your property, the property of the deceased, was held inside a trust, then this technique is not going to work. It's only going to work if the individual that passed away had the property in their name and that would come into the estate and be dealt with accordingly. Now, these things are very complicated, and you should not simply rely upon a short presentation to make a serious decision. Circumstances can be such that you don't fit into the general rule and you should not elect it. Only a detailed explanation of your particular circumstances can provide that. So you need to make sure that you have a good CPA who's familiar with the state taxation, a good lawyer who's familiar with the state taxation, or maybe both, to help guide you through this minefield. But if you get through it, you can get some sizable income tax benefits, and they're available to everybody, not just the affluent. If you have questions about this, you can email me at the email address you see on the screen, and we'll be glad to try to respond as time permits. Thank you for tuning in, and have a great day.